Waterfall, the CCW podcast.
Hello and welcome to Waterfall, the water saving podcast brought to you by CCW, that's the Consumer Council for Water, where we represent water users across England and Wales, which is all of us. I'm Mike, but obviously I'm not, I'm Cath, the roving reporter, finally in-house, and because Mike's on holiday, I think, and with me today is guru, expert and all-round water poo-bar, Karen. Has anybody used the word poo-bar? Karen, how are you?
I'm fine. Hello, Cath. I feel like, you know, we've taken over the asylum to some extent.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to you, to Mike, to the listeners. And also with us today is, of course, producer Tom.
Hi everyone. Just trying to maintain order here in Mike's absence, but happy to be here as always.
As always. So today we have got a very exciting episode brought to us by the good people of Northumbrian Water. We're going to talk to Jennie and Simon about Bin the Wipe, a campaign that they have run all across their area, which has had a huge impact in stopping blockages, stopping internal flooding and changing people's behaviours with wipes.
Yes, I think this is one of the things that until you're actually told about, a lot of people just don't realise how flushing wipes down the toilet can cause some really horrendous problems, not only in people's own drains, but in the larger sewage system as well. So it's going to be really interesting to hear what steps the company has been able to take to really tackle that as a problem.
Absolutely. So before we get into that, we need to let our listeners know how they can contact us, which I believe is some kind of quiz for you on a weekly basis, Karen. So
yes, I feel the pressure already. What would you like to know?
Your starter for 10. Could you tell me the email address, please?
Anybody wanting to email us should use podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
Just to show that I have done my homework too, we also have an Instagram. The account is Waterfall Podcast. Do go look. There's videos, photos. Mike often does lots of the filming and he's really good at capturing people's terrible angles. So, you know, it's totally worth a look. It's also amusing. He does put up videos there that make me laugh. So without further ado, everybody, I'm going to say this in my best Mike voice, bring on the guests.
What would you like Waterfall to cover next? Send your water-saving topics to podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
Right then, so we are joined today by Jennie and Simon, who are with us from Northumbrian Water to talk about Bin the Wipe, a very successful campaign they've run. So I'll let you introduce yourselves first. Simon?
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Simon Sianko. I'm the head of the Wastewater Networks team at Northumbrian Water. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks for coming. We're very pleased to have you here. And Jennie?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jennie Collingwood. I'm head of corporate affairs at Northumbrian Water. I am super excited to be here. I'm slightly disappointed that Simon and I aren't actually in the same room together. I was very much looking forward to our Richard and Judy moment, but yay, great to be here. So thank you for having us.
Oh, no, we're really excited to have you. So thank you for coming on. As I say, we're here today to talk about Bin the Wipe. So I guess starting at the beginning, tell us what Bin the Wipe is all about.
Should I kick off on this one then?
Go on, Jen.
We're so super proud of Bin the Wipe. It is literally our campaign baby. We're delighted about the success that it's having both in our region, in Northumbrian Water supply region and nationally now as well. So I guess a bit of the history, starting right back at the beginning. As most of you will know, the vast percentage of all blockages are caused by wipes. So well over 60% of blockages that are caused in the networks are caused by wipes. So we knew that we needed to do something to help this, to help our customers, to improve the environment and to be all-round responsible citizens. These blockages can, in certain cases, lead to flooding, which is from a customer point of view, just the most devastating thing that can happen. So real serious issue. And previously we'd tackled into this issue with our Dwayne Pipe campaign. And Dwayne Pipe, from a comms professional perspective, was like the ideal dream campaign to work with. Dwayne was like our hilarious, in inverted commas, sort of comedy character who talked about, don't make my tummy poorly by flushing wipes down the loo. And we loved Dwayne. Dwayne won like Master of Marketing Campaign of the Year. Our employees loved Dwayne. Dwayne had fairly good recall with our customers, and we were super proud of him. But, and there's a massive but here, that campaign did not help our operational statistics. So from a business point of view, it wasn't driving behaviour change. So after giving Dwayne a fairly good crack at the whip for a few years, we decided in 2020 that we'd really need to go back to basics. And if we really wanted to implement sustainable behaviour change, we'd need to completely go back to basics on how to do that. So we started a big insight and data analysis that told us some really interesting stuff. So one of the stats to share is that 54% of people don't have a bin in the bathroom.
Oh.
And as you can imagine, I know, Cath, right?
Where do they put things?
Well, 54% of people who don't have a bin in the bathroom, if they're using wipes, you can imagine where those wipes are going, can't you?
Oh, poor Dwayne Pipe.
Yeah, well, so all of that told us that we needed to do things differently. We needed to look at true behaviour change and find a way to make that sustainable and memorable. And we really went and looked at sort of behaviour change academic theory, and we developed a campaign working in partnership with some experts in this field, behaviour change, and Radley Elder, who know a huge amount about how to influence people's behaviours. And we developed Bin the Wipe. So it's coming from that sort of really great place of the power of three. It's that memorable 3-word lockup, like mind the gap and ban the bomb and that kind of stuff. And that gave us a really solid overarching campaign identity. But the next step in the process was actually, if in addition to a creative campaign, we need some intervention. So that's where the moment of change came in, and the big bin giveaway, which Simon was super passionate about leading from our point of view.
I think just before I'll tell you a little bit about the bins, I think just worth emphasising one of the things Jen's mentioned. So, you asked us what Bin the Wipe's been about. And I guess the serious point is we haven't just done this for a laugh. We've done it to help customers, provide better customer service, better protect the environment. If you go back to 2019, we were amongst the worst companies in the industry for sewer flooding performance. So Bin the Wipe has been part of a number of different initiatives we've used to drive down sewer flooding. And that helped put that extra energy and that extra fire, working jointly with Jen's team and some of the third parties that gave us support with this. So ultimately, we got that weight and momentum behind us to really try and drive our sewer flooding performance. I just thought it's worth mentioning that because Jen's rightly, giving you a good plotted history, but ultimately we're trying to, improve our sewer flooding performance.
Yeah.
And when it came to bins, so Jen's rightly told you this statistic that at least half of people don't have bathroom bins, which we were surprised about. So there's only one place where those wet wipes and other things that people were using for cleaning, taking off makeup, were going and they're going down the toilets, hence then contributing to blockages in the sewer network, which then can go on to cause sewer flooding and pollution. So one of the first things we did, we ended up with a number of different pilot projects. One of them was called the Big Bin Giveaway. So we dished out approximately 1,500 bins to customers that didn't have bathroom bins in Stockton, in Teesside. And ultimately, we measured the results, we measured the changes in people's behaviour. What people started to do was, instead of putting the wet wipes in the toilet, they used the bins that we'd given them, and that then had a knock-on effect on the number of wet wipes we found in the sewers and the blockages and et cetera, et cetera. So that in itself, the big bin giveaway was a real success.
Wow. So you could actually see that just from putting a bin in somebody's bathroom, you saw less stuff in the pipes and less blockages because of that?
Yes.
Cause and effect, amazing. Direct result.
I think it's also worth pointing out that when we're talking about sewer flooding, we're actually talking about people's homes and businesses being flooded. You know, this is a really awful thing for anybody to have to experience. So, you know, it's in the whole community's best interest, isn't it, to try to do the right thing?
Absolutely. From a customer point of view, it's just, I mean, you can imagine, let's not beat around the bush here. It is the most horrific thing that can happen to customers. Nobody would wish that on their worst enemy. So yeah, anything that we can do to mitigate against that, we're absolutely going to go to town on.
Is that part of, what really motivates people to change habit? You're right. I can think of genuinely nothing worse than sewage coming back up my toilet into my bathroom. And even if you don't get the flooding, you get people lose the ability to use their bathrooms because it's all blocked up. So is that what motivates people to change their habits?
It's an education thing, really. I mean, nobody wants this to happen, but there's our research and some later research that was done by Water UK shows that there's a huge difference between what people think that they do and what people actually do. And in reality, if you've not got a bin in your bathroom, which, as we've said, around half of people don't currently, if you're using wipes in the bathroom, then they're pretty much only going in one direction. So a lot of that later research shows that the vast proportion of people know that it's not a great thing to do, but it's a kind of ease situation, isn't it? It's easier to do it. And I think a lot of people are confused by the fact that they appear to be flushable because they disappear down the U-bend. And I think part of Bin the Wipe is just educating people that if it happens to disappear down your loo, then great, but you're potentially causing a problem for your neighbours and certainly the environment further down the road. So just because it might disappear down your loo doesn't mean to say that you're not causing a problem further down the chain.
Yeah, and I think there's that thing as well, isn't there, Jennie and Simon, where for you, it's one wipe that you've binned and it's gone. But if everybody in your street is flushing one wipe, then suddenly you've got 300 wipes. And then if that street combines with the next street over and so on, you end up with huge numbers and they cause real problems in the system, don't they? Like, I think this is what fatbergs start binding round.
Yeah, I think just to touch on something else, Jen's rightly stressed the education and the biggest part of this campaign, and I think what has encouraged behaviour change has been the education, be it from the letters that we use to letter drop customers, be it from different stages of letters. If we find repeat offenders, our guys talking to customers at the door, saying, look at what you've done, we found your wet wipe in the sewer, please change your behaviour, to some of the stuff we've done on billboards, on signage, other forms of advertising. But equally, one of the other things we have done, and we don't shout about this as much as we could do, but one of the things we have done is there's also a little bit of a stick here. We have actually told people, and in a number of cases, we warn people that we will charge them. We will invoice our costs for cleanups, for getting rid of blockages, for tidying up sewer flooding. And in a number of instances, we have had to invoice customers. So the vast majority of the impact education has worked 95, 96% of the time, but in more extreme cases, we've had to use different tactics. And we think that's been an important part of our strategy.
Yeah. And how do you do that, Simon? How do you work out it's number 63 that's the culprit here?
Whilst Jen's team have done an amazing job of the advertising, the marketing, and we've used that brilliantly. One of the things we've got in the operations team is since 2020, when we started this initially as a pilot project, we've had a team of people on the ground deploying devices on chains, on rods, a lot of homemade devices that look like something out of Game of Thrones, really.
They
kind
look
of
like
torture.
instruments of torture, Simon, is what they look like.
And we are thinking about torture for stage 6 of our process for people who continue to.
For legal
Not sure it's
reasons,
the
that's
Consumer
not
Council
true.
we can
Yeah,
allow that.
I'm kidding. But joking aside, we've got a load of homemade gadgets really that go into the sewer that trap wet wipes. Our guys will go then check them the following morning or the evening, and then we can backtrack again to see where the wet wipes have come from. Ultimately, that takes us back to an individual street, and if we continue back to an individual property. So what that means is we can go and knock on number 6's door and say, Cath, we know there's wet wipes coming from this property. You're not allowed to do this. Please, it's causing impacts for sewer flooding downstream. Please, can you change your behaviour? And what we typically get is, we really didn't know. We're so sorry. And actually, those, in the vast majority of cases, customers take it the right way and they stop.
Yeah.
So actually, it is relatively labour intensive. We've got a team of people on the ground, but the impact and the benefits and the results have been tremendous. So that's the summary of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, I can definitely see how somebody speaking to you directly can really make that. You know, you see a poster, you see something on Instagram, Facebook, and you don't necessarily relate it to your own behaviour, kind of what we were saying earlier, isn't it? Where somebody knocks on your door and says, hi there, you've been doing this and this is the effect of your actions. I imagine that most people would at that point go, oh, wow, it really makes that connection.
And we've got some amazing case studies of where our brilliant teams have had exactly those conversations when they're out and about talking to our customers. We had a really good example in Stockton of where one of our guys was having a conversation with a customer who had lots of evidence of repeat wipes blockages, and he was absolutely adamant that nobody in the household was flushing wipes and nobody was using them. And then a couple of days later came out to see one of our guys who was still working out in the street to say, basically, I need to fess up. I've been talking to my teenage daughter and it turns out she's been using them to remove makeup and she's flushed them, and now we're mortified. And yeah, as Simon says, the vast majority, I mean, our customers are brilliant. They've absolutely embraced this campaign and they're doing all the right things. So it is just an education thing. And once people know that, people are super happy to change behaviours, because it's such an easy win, isn't it? We're not even particularly asking people to change their behaviour in terms of using wipes, because as anyone who's ever had babies know, they're pretty invaluable at lots of times of life. So it's more about just disposing of them responsibly.
Goodness, I would not have wanted to be in the room when that conversation happened at home. When Dad said, I can't believe they keep saying we flush wipes, and somebody had to go, actually. I think that's a really interesting point though, Jennie, because you've done some work specific kind of at perhaps younger audience, I think, with Bin the Wipe as well, haven't you, with some YouTube videos?
Yeah, that was another really big success for us. So identifying within the vast array of wipes that are now on the market. So there's everything from baby wipes and cleaning wipes, which most people know about, to really niche things like wipes for pets and wipes for cleaning sunglasses and wipes for polishing car headlamps and all other manner of crazy things. But yeah, makeup wipes were a big known sort of cause of issues. So clearly we understand quite a bit about the sort of people that use makeup wipes. We were able to target our comms to those groups individually. Working with influencers as well to really appeal to them, and again going down that education route, because particularly that sort of generation, like looking at younger millennials, they're so passionate about the environment. The last thing that they would want to do is be causing lasting issues in their community and to the environment. So being able to have that conversation via sort of makeup tutorials on YouTube or via Instagram was really, really helpful for us in launching this campaign and getting that message out to a wider audience.
Oh, I love that. So it's tailored to reach the different parts of the market, as it were. It's not all, I don't know how you reach people who are polishing their car headlights and then going into the bathroom to flush the wipe. That would be different. Hopefully they're not doing that, really.
That was a really helpful piece of learning for us. I mean, not the car headlamp issue, but we at the start of our campaign, insight scoping, we're looking at targeting parents with young babies, but actually, if you've ever had it, because they're obviously the one of the biggest consumers of wet wipes, but actually, if you look at the behaviour around changing a baby's nappy, firstly, you don't often do it in a bathroom, and secondly, when you do it, you tend to wrap the wipe up within the nappy. Look, we're both doing the action.
We are
I
like
know
this.
exactly how to dispose of that. So it is, changing a baby's nappy is old school bin the wipes. That's not the problem that we needed to go after. It's all the other bathroom related makeup cleaning, toilet issues and cleaning products that we needed to go after. So that helped us in the early stages of forming the campaign and knowing the messaging that we needed to use. And that's kind of why Bin the Wipe is just such a universal, it just works on lots of different levels. And it's so super memorable. We've had people out in our communities quoting that back to us and talking to their kids about Bin the Wipe and kids telling off the parents. So that's when you know it's working.
It is. That's when it's hit home, when the children are telling the parents.
Exactly. Bit of pester power.
It's a win every time.
CCW, passionate about championing the best interests of everyone who uses water, now and in the future.
I'm interested to know sort of what you've done to sort of track the success of the programmes and the various sort of strands that you've got to it. How have you gone about that?
So in a way, we've simplified things, because back when we started all this at the beginning of 2020, we were trialing a few different things, and Jen's team helped us come up with some really cool ideas. So we've mentioned this idea of the big bin giveaway. So that was one strand. We did something with influencers and social media, which were brilliant. So we ended up, getting in touch with Instagram influencers who had thousands and thousands of followers and asked them to post certain things to promote our message. And we did a third campaign, something called the Moment of Change campaign, which was about essentially having people in the field at the time of a blockage, going out, being very visible and talking to customers. So between January and April 2020, we ran these pilots. And the idea there was to try and find what we thought was best. And then we could back the right horse moving into 2020, 21, 22, 23. And what we basically found was the Moment of Change campaign and the Big Bin giveaway were quite easy to measure, but essentially they were reducing the number of wet wipes in their catchments, but between about 50 and 70%. They had a massive impact. What we did on the back of that, and we were able to quantify that because we've got historical blockage information for postcodes, for catchments, towns, cities, etc. So what we did on the back of that, we built a business case to basically say this works, back us, and we'll deliver some bigger results. So what we were able to do was basically say, once upon a time, this postcode typically experienced this many blockages, this many internal and external flooders. What we've now been able to do 3 years down the line, because we're now we're almost on a 3-year anniversary at the end of our first pilot. What we're able to say is, for all the areas that we've touched through Bin the Wipe and specifically the Moment of Change campaign, what we've typically achieved is a 48% reduction in the number of blockages. So go back to 2018, 2019, 2020, we are now seeing 48% less regulatory blockages, and we're seeing 50% less external flooders. And we're seeing actually 68% less internal flooders. So all the different things we're measuring in the areas that we've worked, and we're now talking about 170,000 properties directly where we've deployed the Moment of Change program as part of Bin the Wipe. That's where we've had the heavy, intense activity, people on the ground. We've seen those reductions, which are typically, you've heard the numbers, between 48 and 68%. And that has helped underpin the company's step change in sewer flooding performance that we've seen since 2019. So we've got some really clever people that have helped us with the statistics and the numbers. And in the meantime, Jennie's driven the marketing guys, the comms teams, then we're glued together with the ops people who've done this stuff on the ground, and together we've achieved some brilliant things.
I mean, brilliant for the company in terms of your performance, but also brilliant to think of all those homes that have been protected from being flooded, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And for stat fans out there, another stat that I'm just so super proud of is that as a result of all this work, we've reduced the number of wipes in our target areas by 91%. Which just absolutely blows my mind. And when you consider how many of these wipes are jam-packed full of plastics, the impact on the environment is huge there.
Yes.
So I'm so proud of the work that we've done here, and the fact that our customers have embraced this campaign and are working with us for, as I've said before, it's such a win-win, isn't it? There's no downside to this from such a simple little behaviour change. It's just such a great positive result.
I mean, it's stunning.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Jenny, I understand that the campaign is going much wider.
It is, yeah, and this is another thing that we're really excited about. So following, there was a piece of work started a couple of years back that Water UK led along with us, that turned into the campaign that is now Water's Worth Saving. So that was a completely different message, but all around water efficiency, encouraging customers to be more responsible and consider how they're using water. And that was really the first time that the water industry had joined forces together on a unified message that was talking to customers in the same language about the same issue. Because obviously we're kind of people are people the world over, and although we have different customer bases, the issues are the same. And the blockage issue is another example of this, where the water industry have joined forces together. So last year, Water UK did some research. They commissioned some research of their own, in addition to using what the companies had already collected. Because obviously, as anyone who knows anything about the water industry knows, we have an awful lot of data. We collect information on anything and everything. So there was an awful lot of information out there. And the brilliant Water UK research showed that 71% of people use wipes. Huge amount of people are using wipes for lots of different things, and 22% of those people admitted to flushing wipes. So clearly a national problem that needs addressing. Water UK did a bit of research into messages that would land, and they looked at other sort of campaign identities and did some customer testing, and Bin the Wipe scored really highly in all of those tests. So we were really delighted when Water UK and the companies adopted that on behalf of the industry. And there was a parliamentary launch in October 22 where we had really good turnout from all parties, actually, really sort of united support, which kind of speaks to the fact that this is just a whole country issue. And we launched the customer facing part of the campaign in February this year, and so far it's absolutely flying as well. The campaign reach has just exceeded 18 million people, which is phenomenal. 18 million people have seen this message, and it lands really well. The recall and engagement is phenomenal. We've had about 3 million people view the videos, which just blows my mind on a daily basis. So proper kind of like one team joined up industry approach, which is just super.
That is fantastic. So really, anywhere in England and Wales, we should all be hearing about Bin the Wipe soon, and maybe seeing people with homemade devices checking our sewers to pull out wipes.
That would be quite something, Simon. The instruments of torture being rolled out. Maybe one step at a time.
Yeah, I think we've got some guys stood outside Cath's living room, actually, as we speak. Joking aside, Cath, there's actually, we're talking about some of them gadgets. There's other companies have adopted some of the techniques and the approaches that we use with some of the same sorts of gadgets. So one of the things we do try and do is learn off other companies, because somebody might be better with interruptions to supply or water treatment or pollutions, but we've clearly done really well, Ian. We've tried a load of new stuff that's worked, and some of the other companies have gone and adopted very similar approaches around the moment of change, around door knocking with customers, tracking and tracing the wet wipes that are in the sewers, and other companies are actively doing that now. So it's not just us anymore. There's other people who are maybe a bit more at earlier stages, but doing stuff very similar with similar gadgets.
Absolutely. And I'm not surprised with, 50 to 70% reductions. And for such, as you said, Simon, really actually quite straightforward steps, giving people a bin, telling them it's causing a problem when the problem's happening. It really makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Really happy with it and proud of it. And we're not complacent. One of the things I'm just talking to Jen about is we've got our plan now agreed for the rest of 2023. And a lot of the people that have been with us since 2020 on this, because it was a trial, and we had a lot of people who joined us from agency on fixed term contracts. We've been really happy to say that a lot of them have now been made permanent. The permanent members of the team, permanent members of the company. We've got a number of other people who are on fixed terms until the end of the AMP. That's basically another 2 years. And we've got a plan. We know what we're going to do this year. We're going to go back to a lot of the customers that we started with in 2020, just to remind them. Yeah. We've seen recently some customers are starting to drop back into old habits. Yeah. So what we need to do is go back with some of our gadgets, our friends, our toys, and remind customers about what they should be doing. And then equally, we've got a plan this year to go and touch another 45,000 customers with the same approach. So what we're trying to do is be stronger with the areas that we've already touched, but equally spread the message further over and above some of the marketing and advertising Jen's team are doing by just having that more hands-on feel with customers, so they completely get the message, and we can get more and more benefit, reduce flooding, potentially reduce pollution. So this has got at least another few years to run.
Fantastic. And I was going to say that actually, do you see this as a sustained improvement? But it sounds like there's probably a 3-year refresh period that people need to go, yeah, your wipe still blocks the sewer pipe, don't start flushing it again now.
Yeah, or people move house, people move from one area to another. They've not necessarily had the messages. People's habits drift because they see a little bit less of us. And those changes haven't been dramatic. We might have had a 50% improvement in one area. 3 years later, it's now 25%. So what we need to do is go back and get that 25 back to 50. So we're having to invest in going backwards as well as going forwards.
It sounds like you've had a tremendous amount of learning through this campaign. And I think, Jennie, you mentioned, you've also got a need to encourage people to be more water efficient. And I just wonder if there's anything that you've taken away from the Bin the Wipe campaign that you could potentially be applying to other campaigns?
Well, certainly the education message, so explaining the consequences and making that really clear, because I mean, with both of those examples, so flushing of wipes and using water, the consequences are really stark in both cases. So being able to bring that to life for people in language and being visual and being really clear and consistent about the messaging is really important to get that education piece over. The other thing is it's a continuous thing. So kind of this isn't, as much as we would love it to be, this isn't top of anyone's agendas. Nobody really bounces out of bed thinking about their approach to water usage and blockages of a morning, as much as we would love that to be a thing. So I think we've got to be realistic that this is an always on thing, and we can't get complacent. We've got to keep at it. And I guess the other sort of piece of learning from a behaviour change science point of view is the value and the impact of sort of positive affirmation and that continuous feedback loop, and letting people know that as a consequence of their small changes in behaviour, we've managed to reduce blockages by over half, and we've reduced the number of wipes in the network by 91%. I mean, those statistics are phenomenal. And I think once people understand that and kind of get a sense of the positive impact that they can have on their own environment, then that becomes self-fulfilling, and people are much more eager to carry on with this. But overall, I think the learning is it's a hard slog. Behaviour change is really, really tough. It takes a lot of time. People's behaviours are sort of entrenched. And if you think about the sort of move to get rid of plastic bags, it takes a long time to get people to think differently. So we're just super committed to staying at it. We're delighted with the results that we've had at Northumbrian Water, and absolutely over the moon that Water UK and the rest of the industry have taken this nationally, because I think it's so simple that I could really see this having having a big impact nationally. And I would just love us to get to the point where we hear people talking about bin the wipe and why that must be a thing, and how impossible it would be to ever consider putting a wipe down the loo, just in the same way that we'd be aghast if somebody lit a cigarette in an office environment.
What are you doing?
Aaron, can I give you a learning?
Yes, please do.
And I've said this to Jen before, and it's one of the things I've said internally. We've got a company value called, and they say, we try and work as one team. A team that works where you've got different people coming together as one team, you've got more chance of success. And sometimes we get it right, and sometimes we don't. I think this project since 2020 has been an excellent example where we've got it right. So you've got the skills and the expertise of Jen's team, which is typically around marketing, social media, external communications in the sense of this project. But equally, from an operations perspective, you've had a lot of my team who are experts at understanding the sewers, what could work in the sewers, how do we track back to customers, and then having the face-to-face communications. I think once you knit the two things together, it's been hugely effective, because you can see how you could probably do a little bit of something if we just let Jen do her own thing, or let me do my own thing.
Always very dangerous, Simon. Never let that be a thing.
Yeah, and don't tend to end up very well. But you put the two things together, in this sense, you can see how it's dynamite and how it's achieved the brilliant results. And I think that's been the big learning point for me. And equally, you can apply it to other business problems within your own organisation, where people work in isolation. You tend to cock things up or not do very well. But if you do something like this, glue it together and stick together for at least a few years, you achieve brilliance. And I think this is an example where we've got it right.
Absolutely. I mean, the figures speak for themselves, don't they? That is, as you say, and it's not just the reduction in the blockages, but the reduction in the overall usage, the fact that it has stuck with people, and you've reached so many households.
And I think also, the thing for me, and it's something that we've talked about on previous editions of Waterfall, is, it always is a good campaign if you can make it easy for people. Simple message, simple action, and providing the bins to make it even easier for them is just brilliant.
Yeah, why would you not put it in the bin if the bin's right there? Thank you both so much for telling us about this. I can't believe that already, every company should be out on the street following this. It's been hugely successful. Why would we not learn from that and all do that? And I'm really pleased to hear that you've got that Water UK back in, that government back launched in October, February, getting the message out there that clearly companies and the industry as a whole, everybody is getting behind you on this.
Oh, thank you, Cath. We're just absolutely so delighted to talk to you about this, because it's a proper labour of love for us. So whilst we're delighted with the results so far, we know there's still a whole heap to go at, and the potential's enormous. So we're really committed to making this a success, and really excited to see where it can take us next. So be super interested to hear feedback from the listeners. I've listened to these podcasts as a listener on the other side, so I'd be absolutely delighted if anyone's got any feedback and wants to join us in the Bin the Wipe campaign.
It could go international.
Yay, those Canadian listeners, let's get them binning the wipe as well.
That's it. We'll start a global revolution. We'll have to hope GlaxoSmithKline or whoever manufactures them isn't listening.
Just a question, am I right? Because Jen tipped me off about this. Do you have a thing at the beginning of the podcast, and I might have missed it, around how much water people use?
That is my next question for you both. This is a water saving podcast. So we do have to ask you, do you know what your personal water use is? Oh, Simon's nodding already. This is very positive. Go on, Simon.
Simon, do you know there's a leaderboard here?
Well, it is what it is. I'll end up doing better over time, just like we've done with flooding, if I'm halfway down or at the bottom. So I moved into my first adult's house 6 months ago, and I took a meter reading, and I've not looked at that meter until lunchtime today. So I know how many days I've been there. I know my meter reading, so I've calculated what my water consumption is every day.
Oh, Drum roll, I think. Tom, insert a drum roll.
No, I think it's rough. It's around average. It's 137 litres a day. Is that a bit high?
Good. No, I would say.
Okay?
Isn't the average 150?
I think it's just over 140 at the moment. But we expect much better things from you in the future.
So I've already implemented one thing. Having listened to one of my colleagues, Mark Wilkinson, who's the head of the income team here. I heard him on a recent CCW session saying that when he runs his cold tap to get it warm, all the water that's typically going down the sink before it gets hot, he collects that so he can use it on things like put water in the plants. So what I'm starting to do is collect that, put it in the watering can, so I'm reusing and being more efficient. So I'm hoping when I talk to you again, I can get below 130.
Oh, Simon, I love that. And that is a top tip, isn't it? Save that water, put it in a bucket or a jug and use it for something else.
And Jennie, there's no escape. What about you?
So I feel like this is some kind of confessional. So despite the fact that I work for a water company, I'm not a customer of Northumbrian Water. So I'm very lucky. I live on a farm in the middle of a super rural area, Frosterley in Weardale, which is right in the heart of the North Pennines. So I have a private water supply, which is really tricky for me to manage in the same sort of water meter figures as Simon's just quoted. But what I would say is, if anything, having a spring water supply makes me super mindful of where it comes from and how precious a resource it is and what I'm going to do with it. So the thought of using water for example, washing cars or doing anything that I would feel was irresponsible literally makes me feel physically sick. The thought of watching someone wash a car is like pouring bottles of Evian over your windscreen. So no, I can't give you a figure, I'm afraid, but I think probably just to reiterate the point that Simon's just made, I think it's anyone that works for the water industry just absolutely realises what a precious resource this is and how we're in such a privileged position as custodians of our beautiful countryside, and we owe it to future generations to use it wisely.
This podcast is brought to you by CCW, the voice for water consumers.
Cath, I don't know about you, but I was really surprised by how much impact that campaign has had. I mean, it's no wonder that other companies are now following along the same lines. I mean, what was the thing that really grabbed you?
You're right, Karen. I mean, those statistics, I think I've probably said it a few times now, but 50 to 70% change is mind-blowing. I don't know if I can think of, I'm sure there are, but I cannot think of another campaign that's had that level of impact in such a short time. And for it to be sustained as well, people didn't do it for a fortnight and then change. Yeah, that's every diet plan I've ever been on, really successful for up to a month. But clearly people have really changed habits. And it's I also found that 54% of people not having a bin in their bathroom really surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can understand that would lead to people using the toilet as a bin, So, just providing that simple additional bit of help has made all the difference. So, I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to sort of see how that progresses over time, because I'm sure it will have the same impact elsewhere.
Yeah, I was thinking all the things I put in my bathroom bin, blimey, I wouldn't want to put them down the loo, hair from the hairbrush, empty toothpaste tubes. I wouldn't put that. I wouldn't flush that. But yeah, one to watch, I think, isn't it?
Well, I suppose it's time for us to say goodbye. It's been lovely having this time with you, Cath.
Thanks, Karen. It has been lovely. Thanks to both of you for having me here. The listeners will be pleased to know that I think Mike is back from his holiday next week. So you'll be back in the safe hands of Karen and Mike rather than me. Thank you to Karen and Tom for keeping me on track. Tom, I'm going to quiz you this time round. What's our email address?
podcast@ccwater.org.uk, and please do get in touch. We love reading our emails And we love hearing from our listeners. And again, I want to urge people to go back and check out Cath's other appearances on the show, because you are low-key like, you know, the fifth Beatle here. So I think we should make people aware. The Haven't Thicket episode, the Drought Plans episode. There's some great stuff in the archive.
That's true. I'm normally down in the southwest or southeast, in the south. And final for brownie points, Tom, what's the Instagram?
The Instagram is Waterfall Podcast. You don't need an @ there, just search Waterfall Podcast and you'll find so much behind the scenes, you know, in the vault type waterfall stuff over there. So definitely go over there.
Tom, the consummate professional, that's why he's the producer. Thanks both for having me.
Cheers, Cath.
Bye, Cath.
Bye, Karen. Bye, Tom.